What am I? Are you kidding me? That's so dumb. Zoomed in more than usual. Just gotta be one with the camera. Yeah, that's how that goes. Yeah.
Yep. Komodo dark roast. It's good stuff.
So how's it going? How's it going, Nine?
It's going good. Finally stopped raining in St. Louis. That's been nice. And yeah, life's good.
Nice. And we have the pancake himself, Mr. Power over here. How's it going, Power?
You're muted.
It's going pretty well, man. Summer's coming up. We just won the U.S. Inkling Open, as some people know.
Whoa, spoilers!
stuff.
Don't start spoiling people right now.
Alright, my bad, dude.
So we have a couple of things to talk about today on the podcast, but before we begin, we're just going to talk about Power a little bit since we have him on the show, and then we'll talk about Nine. So, Power, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, for people who don't know? What do you do? What do you like to do in your free time? Do you like pancakes?
I actually stopped liking pancakes a while ago, but me, I'm just another college student. I'm a freshman, so I'm still a baby. And I mean, I used to play lots of games before Splatoon. I don't really play that many games besides Splat, but I would say I have like decent experience with games. And I guess I play basketball some other times besides video games.
All right. And what do you mainly play in Splatoon?
I basically use chargers 95% of the time.
Great. And what team do you play for, Power?
I'm on Deadbeat. We're just Pingit, Hexen, Tim/Will.
Awesome. And Nine? Tell us a little bit about yourself. I see you have a bunch of anime characters in the background there. So,
These are my friends. These are my supporters when times get tough. Yeah, I joined the Splatoon community back at Squid Storm 2016. From there, I joined Stratosphere, which Pixel created, actually, which was kind of fun. From there, at Don't Park in the Grass, I lucked into a spot in commentary, and things just kind of went from there. So that's what I do now. I don't get to play the game as much as I want to. I'm a senior in college right now, so a lot of work being done there. Yeah, these are my true friends. Then I got Ike here on my coffee mug. So, yeah.
good life. Good life.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll hop into today's first topic. I know that we were all a part of it in some form, whether it was backstage or directly on the lines commentating or actually playing and winning the event. So let's get right into it here. So first, let's start off with Power, actually. So you played in the U.S. Inkling Open. You were actually the winner of the U.S. Inkling Open. So
Yep.
how does it feel to win this tournament?
Well, honestly, it's a bit underwhelming because of the restrictions. So not all the great teams get to play. But besides that, it's great because since I don't really get to travel that much, going to E3 with my team it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, man. And on top of it all, you also get a Switch. Do you already have a Nintendo Switch?
Yeah, I do already have the Switch, so I don't know what I'm going to do with the extra one.
Maybe raffle it away on your stream, get those extra viewers in by winning a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the event. So for those who don't know, the U.S. Inkling Open was hosted by Nintendo. It was a tournament that was for U.S. only entrants 18+, and you had a chance to win a trip to E3. You also had a chance to win 4 Nintendo Switches, 4 copies of Splatoon, and a couple other swag, depending on what they were. Some were like some figures, some were some clothing. So pretty cool stuff overall. So yeah, Power was part of Team Deadbeat. He basically 3-0'd every single team that went with him. The only team he lost to was a team in Turf War. Is that correct, Power?
Yep, Dank and Co.
Yeah, so Dank and Co is obviously your biggest rival at this very moment, right, Power?
Yeah, we just wait for them grand finals every other tournament.
All right, and Nine. So Ninewholegrains and Hitzel were the main casters of the event. So how was it, Nine? How did you feel about the whole event? Was there anything in particular, any matches that you thought were really exciting?
Well, I mean, the event in and of itself, Hitzel and I talked a lot about what we wanted to do with our approach to commentary for this, and because ideally this would bring in a lot of new viewers, we were kind of caught in this middle place between, do we pander to the veterans, do we talk very general terms to the new people, do we focus too much on play-by-play, how deep do we go in analysis? So, I mean, this was really the first event of its kind that was really made for a very broad general audience, you know. So we tried to adapt what we were doing to that, and I'd say it went pretty well. The transitions and the VODs and all that was something that we hadn't really done before. It was kind of like a real broadcast station, real newsroom. There was a lot of communication behind the scenes that people didn't get to see. As for the matches themselves, Mutebot versus Kairos was a really fun set. It was. That was a really good one. And anytime, 3-0s are pretty dominant, but anytime I see a team play at just like the peak and just really, really lay the smack down, that's a lot of fun to watch. So really, Power, honestly, every set your team played was a lot of fun for me to watch and commentate. I wish I could have seen you versus Deadbeat. A couple of my old teammates are on not Deadbeat. You versus Dank and Co.
Him versus his own team. Let's go, man.
Hey, who would win?
Yeah,
Who would
I could
win?
take it.
Who would win? But yeah, I would have liked to have seen that set. But yeah, the whole tournament was a lot of fun, and finishing with Rainmaker Grand Finals it's okay in my book.
All right, and Cody, I know that you also helped with video editing. We did a bunch of you did the intro video, but you also watched the event as well. So how did you like it as a spectator?
It was good. I mean, I played like two maps though, so I technically played in it.
It's true. You played in the bronze match.
Two whole maps, boys. I'm mad that my face is zoomed in. I'm not looking at it. But yeah, I mean, it is great. I think it was a good entry point as a spectator. Like, it was probably not to be biased, because I'm gonna be totally biased. Like, I think it was more like we put a lot of our heart and soul into it, and it's not even. We managed to pull this out in 2 weeks? Those 2 weeks time. Imagine if we had like a month to prep for something. Like, the amount of stuff we could do would be just unseen, like unheard of. So
actually, I want to even correct you on that. It was even less than 2 weeks, because the first week we did footage with questionable content that I'm not going to talk about here, and we weren't allowed to use any of that. So in the last 4 days of the event, we were basically told we had to scrap like 80% of our footage, and we had to redo everything within 4 days. So yeah, surprisingly turned out pretty good for that. Like literally everything, all our player spotlights, all our team spotlights, everything didn't work out. So we had to redo all of that. So for that to work was a lot of work, and I'm glad it paid off. But besides just talking about like the actual work involved in making the event, so any teams in particular you guys thought were like really showed up to the plate on this tournament in particular for the US Open?
If I could start, I think Deep Blues, like as of late, you could see them just improving as a team. They've been getting better placings in tournaments, and I'm not going to say it's because of the US Inkling Open, but maybe that's a good motivation for them to improve. And you could just watch how they play it. They're a bit more dynamic than recently, and they've been playing well against teams that like have placed better against them. So they're one to watch, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up playing you in the finals too, right? And as much as it was a straight 3-0, it was still, how do you say, like, they still didn't feel too blown out, at least some of them. I know that I believe in Game 2 it was a straight knockout, just a dunk. But the other ones, it still felt like they put up a fight. So definitely a team to look out for. I remember when we watched Taylor's perspective, at least when he was on, how do you say, when we were watching him on his perspectives for all the matches, you could tell just the hype levels. I think probably one of the most exciting matches was probably, like you said, Deep Blues versus... Well, you said Mutebot versus Cairo, but I think Deep Blues versus Cairo was a really, really good match to watch. Basically, any match with Deep Blues ended up being really close games. Really a lot of hype going into them. Just exciting plays happening all around. So yeah, definitely an exciting team to watch in general and to look out for. But yeah, Nine, what did you think of any upcoming teams or teams to look out for?
We thought that Yami versus Get Kraken was going to be a lot of fun, and that was a lot of fun. I just checked back over the bracket just to make sure I was remembering correctly, and I don't think we had any 3-2 sets on the second round of like the second day. So that was unfortunate, but yeah, that one was a lot of fun. Get Kraken and Yami was fun. Deep Blues versus Yami, like you said, I'm kind of going to be an echo chamber here. Just anything that Deep Blues was playing, they were a lot of fun to watch that day, and then of course grand finals. But yeah, what Power? Maybe you can answer this for me. What exactly happened in the one game that you all lost to Dank & Co? Because I talked a little bit to Ace and Bronze afterwards, and they were like, yeah, it was a pretty good game, but that was really all they said. So what happened?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what game it was. There was Black Belly, there was Triggerfish, it was Port Mackerel, right? I don't know, the map is just kind of... We just had to wait for them to go by the lanes, and I guess 2 of us died or something, and then they're just able to push at the end, so that's just tier 4.
Yeah.
All right, and Pixel, before we change it up a little bit, what were your thoughts on a team that came out that kind of surprised you or brought the most exciting matches, you'd say?
To be quite honest, I kind of expected like all of them to bring like a lot to the table, so none of them really like surprised me per se, but Yami definitely kind of put forth a lot of effort, and it showed if I had to pick one. But everyone for me is basically on equal footing. Like I wasn't like, oh my god, oh. So, but I'm sorry, I keep looking at my zoomed in face, and it's driving me nuts. So it's oh, Deep Blues, oh, but yeah, like all of them like are equal for me. So like I couldn't just pick one. But if I had to like really really narrow it down, I really enjoyed Yami's performance.
All right. So now with that going into obviously Deadbeat winning, like we mentioned before, you guys got the trip to E3. What do you think is happening at E3? Like basically there's an exhibition tournament, but do you think they're going to be inviting any more regions? Because as of right now, they've only technically announced Australia and North America. So I don't think it'd just be an exhibition tournament of 2 countries, right? Or continents, if we're actually going to go with Australia.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about it, because if they were to invite another region, it would be the Rising Moon, like the team Rising Moon from the ESL finals. So that would make it 3 teams, and I don't know how they're going to balance it out. Maybe they'll put in some Treehouse people or something.
Team Treehouse versus Deadbeat. That would be the most exciting match in the world to watch. You're just going to see Power 37-0.
Yeah.
Where's the other team? Oh, we just farmed them.
Oh my god.
But no, that'll be interesting. The exhibition tournament. They haven't really announced too much about it. They just said there would be a little exhibition tournament for Splatoon 2, and that all of you guys would be a part of it. But there's only really 2 teams announced. And like you said, they might put Rising Moon in there after the fact. But yeah, like, shouldn't they be adding maybe like a couple of other regions? Maybe making it like at least 4 teams, 5 teams, you know? I don't know. Nintendo, get Team Canada in.
Team Canada.
But yeah, so that'll be exciting, man. It'll be exciting to see all you guys on the big stage at E3, showing what Splatoon can really be at like a high level. I think that's the most exciting part for me, is just knowing that there's going to be like 100,000 people watching you guys play. No pressure, Power, but just like watching you guys style on people. And I think that's really exciting to me, because you need that flair going into it. So I think if there was any team to go through, Deadbeat is definitely that team that I like, because you guys just have a really good flair about everyone, like Penguit with his insane directs, you with your insane snipes. Like every single person on your team does crazy stuff. So I just think it's really exciting for me to think about the possibilities of that many people watching really good plays, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like a great opportunity overall. I just hope we deliver.
Well, better start practicing, man. So, speaking of the E3, also going through the U.S. Open, we passed through the Australian Open, the Oceanic. It was hosted by the Oceanic Offensive Team and also the Splat Os League. Let me get that. Let me make sure I'm not fudging any words here on this one. Yeah, it was. Who was the people who ran this event? Yeah, it was AEL, Australian Esports League. So Australian Esports League ran the event, and Oceanic staff ran the tournament. And it looks like Blue Ring Octolings ended up winning against Scarth Ace. Blue Ring Octolings, a prominent team in the community. They've been around for a little bit. They were in Ludi. I don't remember the exact league division. And then you have Scarth Ace, who's Scarth. If no one knows him, he was an old school Splatoon player. They had Siki as well, who was also another old school Splatoon player, kind of teaming up to make this I guess you could say super team of older school players, and they ended up playing. So for those of you who don't know, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people aren't informed, it looks like it went 4-2 in favor for Scarth Ace, which was what most people were expecting. Everyone thought Scarth Ace was going to win. And then literally at the last second, Blue Ring Octolings came back and 5-4'd them. They swept the games. And just a quick side note to mention is that there was no bracket reset. If you got to the finals, it was only one match. So Scarth Ace actually made it to the winner's final, didn't get the bracket reset, but they got map favoritism as pick, and they won the tournament. But we're going to have some of the people on next week to more go in depth about the entire scene of Australia and New Zealand and just that whole scene, because they've kind of cultivated this community that's, I wouldn't say isolated because they're still a part of us, but they really like doing their own thing with their own community, and that's kind of cool. So I'd like to save that for another cast. Just wanted to give everyone a brief update on what happened on that Australian one. So Blue Ring Octolings won, and they are going to be going through to E3 with you guys. So hopefully you get to face off against them. So yeah, that'll be exciting. So does anyone want to add anything really quickly regarding the events before we go on to some more hot topics?
I've got nothing.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we've had a hot topic lately that's been going around the community and just going around with us. It's regarding the Squid Coliseum. It seems to be something that everyone keeps talking about, whether it's good or bad. What's the role of top player priority? That kind of stuff. And I just want to kind of get everyone's thoughts on it. So first, I'm going to break this down into segments for you guys. My first thing is what do you guys think is the role of a top player within a community? I mean, like if you look at other communities like League of Legends, Counter-Strike, stuff like that, they all have a different type of thing. So what do you guys think is a top player priority?
Well, maybe we should ask the top player first. Power, what do you think?
Well, I think that you should just, as a top player, you should be able to, when asked or someone like top asks you any question, that you should be able to give some sort of advice to help out other people. Like, you don't have to go out of your way to do it, but it's always nice to help out the weaker, no, not the weaker, like the smaller player who doesn't know as much, so you could help get the competitive scene to grow, and eventually, hopefully, one day you can play against those guys who took your tips and made their own strategies and stuff. And just being able to help the smaller players grow just helps the scene overall. And as a top player, that's a pretty important role, I would say.
All right. How do you feel, Nine? Like, do you think that there's something that do you think, like, because you're at this point in a community, you have to go even further and you have to help people who you consider of lesser skill? Like, do you think it's this obligation, like Jedi style, like with all this power comes great responsibility? Or maybe that's Spider-Man, but yeah, like, what's your thoughts on it, Nine?
So I think that the primary role of the top players is to push the metagame forward. I think that top players are the ones that set the example that everyone should research and everyone should follow. I don't think that top players are obliged by any means to help anybody, to be perfectly frank. If they do, that's nice. And it's certainly, like Power said, if someone asks a top player, the top player, gives them a little bit of advice, a little bit of help of some sort. But I mean, I think the role of the top player, I mean, at the end of the day, top player or not, they're people playing Splatoon, and I think that's what they should do. If it's not an obligation of a lower level player to help people, I don't think it should be an obligation of a top level player. I mean, we're playing this game because we love it, and honestly, the gameplay that top players put up, like that's help. That's plenty of help. You can watch. I've learned so much about the game and different weapons by just watching top players play it. I mean, I could have asked them for that advice, or I could just watch what they do and try to copy it. So that's kind of my thought. Again, it's okay if they want to help, but I don't think they're obliged to by any means.
All right, and how about you, Pixel?
I just want to say I'm back. I'm not skipping the guy. But, I mean, it's really like, what are we talking about, top player priority?
Well, no, like, what do you think the role is of a top player? Because we've been having this discussion about how everyone says that they need to help out, but, I mean, it's
not, they don't really have to help out. It's just more or less like there's content creators that are top players. It's like, it generally depends on what the top player wants to do, but generally the one, like, rule of thumb is, like, you can't really, if you're a player of any sort of kind, like top, low, whatever, I don't like even using the word low player, or like new player, like you're part of the community. So at a base, whether you like it or not, you're playing the same game everybody else is, and that puts you like a part of the community. So you could be a top player and you don't have to help anybody. You're not obligated. No one told you you have to. But going as far as saying you're not a part of something is kind of smirky, because you are, whether you want to or not, because you're playing the same game that everybody in the community is playing. Like, you have a social media account that makes you a part of something.
yeah. So I'm kind of siding with Nine on here. I think that I just want to bring up that I think I agree with Ninewholegrains on the matter. That I don't think there's any obligation for people to help out, like, starting people or, like, a team that they feel is, like, less good than them. Like, as a top player, if you want to succeed and you want to be the best player you need to be, go for it, man. I think, just like he said, watching two teams at a highest level compete against each other actually teaches you a lot more. It's why so many people watch Japanese scrims or VODs. I know, Power, you're really into watching it and analyzing their play too, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So
watch a lot of different things.
So to give an example, Power's what we consider like one of the best snipers in the West, right? And he still watches VODs of players at the top level. And you're not asking like a Japanese person to like take you under his wing and teach you how to play or join his battles, right? You're just watching him play. So I think that that's definitely a good way to go about it. So I don't think there's any obligation in particular for you to like have to do guides and have to do tutorials. I mean, we're all just humans anyways. If you don't feel like you want to do it, you don't have to do it, right? It's on you if you want to do that type of play. So totally in line with that. But then this brings up the second thing, though, is how do you guys feel about Squid Coliseum in general? And what I mean in general is not just like how it works, because I'm sure if we said, yeah, it's a system where you queue up and you rank up with players and then you move up better, like that's fine. But it's the whole idea that it's being advertised and then saying that it's not for everyone. So just give me your general thoughts. If you just want to talk about the actual system itself, that's fine. If you want to talk about how it's run, that kind of stuff, that's fine too. But just try to give your thoughts. So Power, what about you?
I think it's a good start of something, but we should continue and expand the system of it into like a more broader reach. And also, I think that since it's still in beta testing, that it shouldn't have been as advertised as much as it was. Like, lots of people were just posting on Twitter how much they like the Coliseum, but since it's still starting out and the public, like a public version hasn't been released yet, then it shouldn't have been talked about as much, because then that just makes other people feel left out, and that's part of why there were several arguments about it.
All right, Nine, what about you?
I kind of agree with Power. I think the way that it was introduced and handled wasn't the best. As far as a concept idea, I love it. You know, a bunch of top players getting together and, you know, playing with each other and pushing each other and, you know, making, like, raising the skill ceiling of the game. I love that. I don't have any problem with that. I think the way that it was introduced made it feel like it was, I don't know, open for everybody, but oh, not actually you. When I don't think that was the intent of it at all. I think, like you said, it's still in beta. I think they got a group of top players together to test it out and to see how it worked. I think it worked well. I love the idea. So, I don't know. I think the way it was introduced and the way it was handled kind of made things get blown out of proportion. But honestly, even if it doesn't expand, I've got no problem with it. Like I said, I think top players' role is to push the envelope of what you can do in the game, and it's up to the rest of us to catch up. You know, like I don't know, they're able to be top players because they practice right and they get really good and they stay good, and it takes a lot of effort to stay that good. So I don't have a problem with it at all. I love the idea. I just think that the way it was handled rubbed some people the wrong way.
All right, Pixel.
Let me make sure.
You, man?
Does my voice sound okay?
No, well, it still sounds like you're on a microwave.
Oh, does it? Okay, it's switched to the camera mic. I don't know why. I mean, I agree with Nine mostly. It's like the way it was like brought out to the public eye was kind of bad. But I mean, being in it, it's like the system's great. It's just needs a little tweaking.
All right. Anything else?
No, let me fix my.
It sounded like you were ready to say something else that you just kind of stopped.
No, let me fix my toaster mic real quick.
All right. Well, I'm gonna bring up my thoughts with it. Is that I don't think it's like a player problem or a how do you say, like an issue with it existing. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you look at other type of high level things that actually have money and prize pool and salaries and stuff like that, right? Like, if you're watching League of Legends, for anyone who doesn't know, like, TSM's not gonna play against like a semi good team who's like all grandmaster or something, right? They're only gonna play against the other people within the league who are also at the top, and they're gonna scrim them and play against them. But they don't also just publicly advertise that they're making this. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not just sitting there going like, hey guys, here's when we scrim and here's our times, and this is not for everyone, but we want to show you what we're doing. It's like, just play the games and just mention that there's a bunch of players and that you're doing this and that we are only going to invite people we know about, but we're not going to advertise it. Like, the fact that they openly came out on Twitter and were like, this is actually what we're doing, and to make some confusion clear, is like, it started even worse things. Like, if it's going to stay private, just keep it private. Don't ever expand on it. And now it looks like they're going the other route, where now they made a Twitter for it, and now they've expanded on it and marketed it, and they're like, yeah, now we're going to open it up to more people. And it's like, okay, so now your little thing that's with small amounts of top players is now going to become open. But then what? Are you going to keep one that's only for top players and one that's open to the public? So you're still secluding it, and you're still making it feel like, I feel like it's not an issue with the system. It's an issue with marketing. People don't know how to market what they want to do, and people feel like they need to make everything public. It's like, if you think that you want to play against, let's say, like Chimera and Synergy, and that's all you want to play against, just mention that you only want to do that. Don't tell anyone else. Just start playing it. No one will have a problem with it. If you start advertising that you're scrimming Synergy and Chimera and we only want to play the best teams, it's like, of course, you're going to come off a little bit as arrogant, and that the system itself, you're trying to like gloat about it. And I think that's what it came off as, is more of gloating than it was an issue with it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It's a marketing problem. People don't understand how to value their own product, I guess you could say, and how to value what they need to do. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, totally, I agree.
So yeah, So I also want to hop into another quick topic here, since we all kind of got our thoughts on it. Is I had another Twitter post. I think it was by Didia, but it was also brought on by Hitzel and us talking. I think Nine was part of this as well. We were talking about turf war in the U.S. Inkling Open, and just turf war in general. So Hitzel kind of brought up not 100% pure statistics, but it was more just like a general view is like whenever we ask for scrims, no one ever asked for turf war scrims, or no one ever asked for turf war in their scrims. The only time it's ever been asked for is when it's been in the SSS and when it's been in the US Inkling Open. So obviously within our community, we really don't talk about turf war like ever. And what's its place in competitive? Do you guys think it should stay within a competitive setting? Do you think it should be played in tournaments? Do you think we should accept it if we don't like it? I know it's a couple loaded questions, but I just kind of want to get your thoughts on the idea of turf war. How about you, Power?
Well, having played in turf war for the tournament, I think it shouldn't be part of competitive. We should have it separate, because I'll say that the turf war matches were unnecessarily more stressful than the other matches, simply because of the last 40 whatever seconds build up to it to the end. Like most of the closest matches, or some of the closest matches, were probably turf war because of that. Just one mistake or two deaths on our team just invalidates a significant amount of like team camping or whatever map control that we had.
But couldn't you play devil's advocate and say that not that I agree, I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say that you shouldn't? You should always be playing perfectly, and that's actually the point of the game, is to be as perfect as you could possibly be. So if you get punished at the last second, that's your own fault?
I would say that that's a good idea, but if you look at the other modes and how Splatoon is played on the other modes, lots of mistakes are made. Even the meta revolves around us just making mistakes, because we have a bunch of QR people and all that, and it's just several mistakes, and turf war is kind of just one mistake. That's a difference that I don't really like about it.
All right. Anything else you want to add really quickly, or does someone else want to take up the reins on this matter?
Ultimately, I just think that, the evidence that the community at large doesn't want to play it is enough for me. I don't think we should have to play it if we don't want to. And if we're going to play it in a tournament, there better be a real big pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. But I agree with pretty much everything.
Actually, speaking of that, but that would be kind of the opposite, right? You're basically saying unless there's money, we won't play it, right? But then why would we want money in the tournament for a turf war then if we don't want to play it? You know what I mean? It's kind of like...
right.
Like Nintendo is pushing the turf war, but none of us want it. But we're all accepting it because there's money or there's a prize involved in it.
Yeah. So like Hitzel said, I mean, it was a proposal to kind of like his idea to get the statistics of how much we ask for it and then let Nintendo know. So hopefully kind of preemptively shutting that down. But if it comes to a matter of Nintendo wanting to put on another, U.S. Inkling Open-esque event, with this kind of prize and whatnot, are we really going to say no to that just because there's turf war? I mean, are we really going to turn that down? I personally, I don't think I could. I mean,
we're not.
It's turf war, but...
And while I agree with that, though, but the difference is you don't do that. But after, let's say, what about if, just the hypothetical, I don't think this will be a reality, but let's say like Nintendo makes an entire Splatoon league and they're offering salaries for players and everything, but turf war is like the main mode for everything. So you're telling me that you're going to become a salary player and we're going to play a mode that everyone dislikes for that period of time. Like, that will become the standard of competition just due to the fact that there's the most prize pool coming out of it. Do you see what I mean? Like, do you see the problem with this? Is that the whole community essentially doesn't play turf war, but all the prize pool is centralizing around it more and more and more. So, do you see the disparity here? Like, wouldn't that be more taxing on a player? Like, your enjoyment will go down from the game?
I don't know, dog. Salary's pretty good. The other thing that I think is important to with this, I agree, if it got to that point, we'd have a real issue, but the game itself acknowledges that Turf War is not a competitive mode. It's not a ranked mode. So, I don't think it would ever get to that point. But I don't know, man. Getting a salary to pay Splatoon, like, I don't know. That's a huge deal. Like a livable wage to play Splatoon, even if it's not a mode that you like.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely, it's huge. It's just.
I mean, I would take it. Even
it's
if I
just
hate,
like,
even though I hate Turf 4, I'd take it.
But you agree that the game itself says it isn't, but then Nintendo keeps pushing it.
Yeah.
So that's just my whole concept on it. I mean, Cody, do you want to add something in regards to the turf war?
Hopefully I don't sound like a tin can,
No,
but
you
yeah, I
sound
mean,
great.
it's mostly like if we just let them do what they want, they're gonna do what they want. So if we don't give any sort of input, like I'm really stuck with turf war tournaments till because they won't see a problem with it. They want to shoehorn what they feel is the most casually accepting mode to like bring more players to the base. That's why they pick turf war, because if they pick the ranked modes, they're going to scare away the majority of those teams that entered in the beginning, like were teams we've never heard of, teams that only played, competitive turf war, which that's all fine and good. You're allowed to play whatever you want, but it's not like the problem lies with the mode itself. Last 40 seconds, one mistake, you're done. Like that's not really competitive because everybody makes mistakes that cost you games. It's just in the other ranked modes, like Power said, it's like multiple mistakes lead to your loss, not one. Oops, you fell in the water. Last 40 seconds, even your QR won't save you. Like it's not a mode that I hope they stick with or things progress like that.
Yeah. So I have quite a bit to actually say about this. I was actually going to save this for like a full video, but I decided that since I probably will never get around to it, I'll kind of bring up my thoughts about this. I figure it's easier to do it on the podcast that I run, right? So the first thing is I want to talk about Turf 4 as a competitive mode. You can make anything competitive if you want to. You can literally make like finger snapping a competition if you wanted to. You could have eating a sandwich be a type of competition. There is sandwich eating competitions.
I was gonna say there is.
You know what I mean? Like you can literally make a competition out of anything. So if you want to say Turf War is competitive, I mean you totally can. You can make it competitive. But is it the most optimal way to play it? Probably not. We have 3 other modes that can do that. And the reason is to do with punish. In 3 modes, there's a time limit, and you can be punished at any point in time on that map, so that when someone does make a mistake at any point in time, you are punished for it. As opposed to in Turf War, you can make a mistake at any point in time, but only the last 30 seconds of that punish really matters. So in terms of competition, it's not on fair game with the other 3 modes, and that's why it shouldn't be a part of it. That's the competitive side of me talking about it. But then when we look at it from more of like a business perspective, from a garnering the community and getting more people interested into the scene, like yes, just watching it makes people interested, but also people want to play in it. So Turf War is a great starting point for like new people to be like, oh, there's a tournament, I want to try getting competitive. Well, I played Turf War, you know what I mean? They're obviously not going to win. They're not going to go up against Deadbeat and in the finals and like be the gods that they want to be, but it gets them into that competitive mindset of like, I want to start playing, and they see Turf War, and that slow, and then you can work their way up in the tournaments. Like the first round or 2 is like Turf War. Like all the top teams are going to beat the lower teams without a doubt. It's Turf War only sucks when you have 2 even teams playing against each other, because it means that it's not the best show of skill between 2 even teams. But if we have a Deadbeat versus, I don't know, Mom and Dad and Jake and Josh, you know what I mean? Like, they're going to get annihilated. It doesn't matter how many Turf War games they play. They could play 87 Turf War games, and Deadbeat is still going to beat them 87 times, because they're just that there's that much of a skill difference. So I think if you put them in the first round or second round, and you try to get people would want to join because they know that there's Turf War at the beginning and it's the more casual mode. And then that slowly integrates them into the more competitive modes like Zones and Tower. And that's when you see the actual competition starting to play. So I think that there's a balance there to try and gain new people into the community while catering to the competitive community. You know what I mean? Like maybe top 64 starts becoming a competitive mode if you're talking about large scale tournaments. But I think in Splatoon 1, I mean, the game is essentially like, it's dead, let's be real here, in terms of like gaining more people. But for Splatoon 2, I think it's really an opportunity for us to work on Turf War putting it into tournaments, at least for like the first round, just so people don't feel as intimidated from it. And I think that's a good way to go about it, is through that. But my personal take on it is I think Turf War is a terribly bad competitive mode. I don't think it's that fun either. That's just kind of my thoughts on it overall, is that you need to cater to it from a business perspective to grow the audience, but it is not, in fact, a competitive mode. And I think that that's a good way to also generate interest with Nintendo, too, since they seem to be pushing Turf War so hard. So yeah, that's just my view on it. And to other people, someone's talking about how there was a flawed view in regards to my thoughts on it, about like garnering a community. If we're talking about how we're making a league, like an actual league or a setting of like top 16 teams that are salary players, this wouldn't be what it is. But if you're talking about an open tournament, I don't see what the issue is with that. Like if you have an open tournament of like 1,000 players. So yeah, just kind of my takes on it. It depends on what type of tournament you're running too. Like invitationals, if you know it's only going to be competitive players, there's no need to run Turf War. But I think if you want to run kind of a semi-casual tournament, then it's a good way to garner interest with people. Oh yeah, that's it. Does anyone want to add anything? I know it was really long-winded, but yeah, I'm really passionate about this topic.
No, you're fine.
Well, with the format that you suggested with the round one as being Turf 4, there's like a small hiccup I could see happening with like the middle seeds, but it depends on the size of the tournament, as you said. And we really have to figure out a way to convince Nintendo if they're going to be the main sponsor of the largest tournaments that we're going to have.
Well, yeah, so. And I think that is what it comes down to, Power, is like the only reason why I'm recommending Turf War is because I think it's something that Nintendo won't budge on. You know what I mean? I think if we ever want to garner support from them, I think like Turf War has to be part of it in some form because it's how they promote it. And that's more why I'm saying it. Like I think in terms of actual competition, it shouldn't. And if you want to do your own grassroots thing, I mean, don't run Turf War. Straight up, just don't do it. But I think if you want to garner support of it, you have to try and include it somehow. And I think from just a business perspective, I never said from a competitive perspective, it's one of the ways to go.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And it just depends on the ball that we're pitched, you know? Like, I think that the idea of telling Nintendo and making it very clear that we don't like this ranked mode is, well, not ranked mode, this mode.
This non-ranked mode.
This non-ranked mode, yeah. I think it really just kind of does depend. I mean, if Turf War needs to be played in order to get more people into the scene, like starting out, you know, I almost want to say it's a necessary evil as much as I hate it. Like, I don't know, which ultimately what matters more to you, building the community our way or building the community period? And that's not an answer that I have. That's not an answer that I think any one person has. And that's not an answer that will show itself in a while. But I mean, I think that letting Nintendo know what we've built the community on from a competitive standpoint is a great first step. And then, I mean, I guess the ball's kind of in their court at that point. If they insist on pushing it and that's like our only way to get their support, I don't know. It's hard to really build a community without the support of the developers. So, I mean, we'll just have to see ultimately.
Well, I mean, we are kind of grassroots at the moment, regardless if Nintendo's kind of helping out because they're not investing money. They're still investing prizes. You know what I mean? Like, Power wins US Inkling Open. He's not given $2,000. He's given a trip to E3 and a Switch, which is still cool. Like, not discrediting that at all. But it's like that doesn't feel esports enough for me yet. That still feels like a kind of like a giveaway, you know, in a way, until they actually say like we're investing $20,000 into a tournament and we're going to have big names in this. You know what I mean? It's not there yet for that. And I think the reason why I'm mentioning Turf War is just because of how small of a community we are and how much we want to gather people. We want to foster better players so we can do better, right? Like outside of Japan, our community is real small, you know? So trying to get people at least interested in it is kind of like you said, Nine, it's a necessary evil where where we kind of have to try and get it in. And like I said, if you want to host an invitational, 16 of the top teams, or you're making a cutoff, like you're saying only this type of player can enter in, it's a different story. But if you're trying to make an open tournament, as open as possible, get as many entrants as possible to try and like gain popularity, it's kind of a necessary evil in a way. So
yeah, we'll see. We won't know exactly what it becomes until it becomes it. I hope that's not the case, but hopefully in 2 years' time we'll be looking back on this and laughing.
Yeah, I mean, well, hopefully that is the case. So those two were kind of Twitter questions, but they were kind of topics that I wanted to touch on. We're going to slowly go more into a couple of more Twitter questions. We'll start off with a funny one here. This is from Lucas Splatoon, and it's directly for Power. And he says to you, is Power the hero the Splatoon community deserves? Power, what are your thoughts on this?
I am far from a hero.
Are you the Dark Knight of Splatoon?
I'm just like a middle ground guy. Like I just stream and play.
And a lukewarm response from our hero, guys. Anyone else have thoughts? Is hero the Splatoon community hero that we deserve?
Do we deserve a hero?
Anyways, thank you, Lucas,
you,
for the question. We love you, Lucas. So I have a question that a couple of people are asking me lately, but I'll talk to this from follow at Carla_Urza_Rose. She says, do you think there will be more ranked modes in Splatoon 2? What do you think the mode would be like? And the second question is someone wrote, do you think modes will be removed from Splatoon 2? So what do you guys think? Do you think there will be any modes added? Do you think there will be any modes removed?
Well, I don't know much about any other modes, but I think that they're gonna maybe change the way Tower or Rainmaker is, because depending on I played the test fire maps and they don't seem very suited for Rainmaker because I forgot which one it was. I think it was the muscle place, and it was just very, very cramped and tight. And as a Rainmaker map, that doesn't seem like it would work well. Probably be like a Black Belly situation.
Well, maybe they're making all the maps like Black Belly. They're like, damn, this is so exciting. We need to make this on every map. You wouldn't be interested in that? You wouldn't be interested in just Rainmaker Black Belly all day long?
I've had enough of it by now.
So
I think they're just gonna like revamp them. Like I don't think they're gonna actually like remove, but I think like Rainmaker might, instead of just be capture the oddball, capture the neutral thing in the middle and take it to like each team's podium. They might do traditional CTF where the Rainmaker actually goes on your back and you could still use you can't use your special, but you can still fire. That type of thing. You could still move, and because the maps don't look built for what the modes currently do. Like those maps look really, really weird in the sense of like the design choices for like modes that would be ranked. So I think there's going to be a lot of rework. Like for even splat zones, I feel like they might abandon just having one zone and make each map have two sections for zones, because some of those maps are just weird. Even the ones that they've showed so far, it seems like they're going to revamp probably the modes, at least in some form.
Yeah. Do you think there might be mode exclusive maps? Like, for example, they make a Muscle Forge specifically for zones, but it won't ever get shown in Rainmaker and TC. And I don't mean that in the sense of like what it is now in the ranked modes. I mean like you just cannot play those modes when you enter a private lobby.
I mean, yeah, there's some games that have like maps redesigned, tailored to a specific mode, so it's not unheard of. Like each mode could just make a map that's revamped in the sense of to work around that mode. That would be a solution too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9.
And the only standard game mode that I haven't seen anything really in. There's kind of a King of the Hill control point-esque thing in Splat Zones. Tower control sort of like Payload. And, of course, Capture the Flag for Rainmaker. The only thing there really isn't is, like, attack and defense, where one group is trying to hold on to a specific part and the other group is trying to, like, push into it with, like, a payload sort of thing. I guess it's all attack and defense, but, like, one team isn't strictly limited to defense and one team isn't strictly limited to attack. It's kind of like a tug of war. I don't know how they would implement that, but I know in your question you asked if there were any modes added. And the only thing I can even think of off the top of my head would be something like that. But I mean, I agree with what everyone else has said. It's like, I don't know. I certainly only thought of Turf War when I was playing those test fire maps, maybe Splat Zones, but I don't know. They were both pretty cramped. They were both smaller maps. So I don't know. We'll see if there's bigger maps that open up more verticality and things like that. But I don't know. I could very easily see tower control being removed, maybe a little bit more than Rainmaker. But that's also just because I love Rainmaker and I'm in denial. So I don't know. I could absolutely see one or more modes being removed and another one coming in, especially with how hard they've been pushing Salmon Run. They might think that that's like a substitute.
I wouldn't think so. I think it's completely different for that in particular. So one thing I will say is I think that TC might actually get removed in general. I think that they realized that there were a lot of maps that kind of had a weird situation going on with TC. I think Rainmaker's really popular. I don't think they'd remove it. It's garnered too much interest within like the Western side, and everyone just really enjoys it. And it's the faster pace of the game. You know what I mean? It's really about working with your team, pushing an objective. You have the freedom of movement too. So I think that would stay. I think they might add some interesting modes, like maybe something like a one team might have like vacuum cleaners where they suck up the paint and the other team has to paint. And it's not a question of who turfs more, but it's a question of can you stop a team from painting the whole map? I don't know. That's an idea that I had, like more of a fun game than an actual ranked mode.
Right.
I don't know if they do that, but that's an idea that I had about it. Another thing that they could be doing is, well, actually, that brings up another question because you were talking about the offense defense. Do you think that they will have a symmetrical map? They'll have asymmetrical maps throughout the game in this one.
We would need to see that for an attack defense map, but I don't know. They haven't given me any indication that they would. I think it'd be interesting, but
yeah, it'd be nice if they could just have
say.
like one map, just one, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of like Salmon Run style. We're like, hey, we're gonna try this out, see if it works, and then if like it does get popular, I don't know, make it DLC later down the road. Like you don't have to commit to it, but like let us try it out. Maybe I don't know. It'd be pretty cool.
Maybe.
How about you there, Pixel?
I mean, I don't think they're gonna try anything that's out of the ordinary in terms of, like, I'd love to see an attack defend or like more like stuff like that, but I don't think they're gonna commit. And I'd also like to personally see like traditional DLC, not like what they did with Splatoon 1, where it's like, oh my god, all this content that's totally not on the disc, and the update's like a kilobyte. Like that's a cool way to do your content, but that's like some Capcom bull crap. Like that's literally the thing that Capcom would do. Like for Ultimate Marvel, for example, Jill and Shumagurath were on the disc, but they were locked behind the paywall. Like
yeah, but that was locked behind a paywall. This is free.
Well, it's only free, but it's already content on the disc. They're just unlocking it at a later date. That's my problem. I would prefer them doing that again, but also having content that we would pay for, which would help the longevity of the game, because there's more stuff that's not like, oh my god, like this 1 year has passed, we have all this stuff, and then they're like, I don't want a season pass. I just want like packs. Like one pack has like 4 to 6 maps, brand new, that we've never seen, that weren't on the disc. Like they didn't wait. They were just like, here, there's this new stuff you can play with, have fun. It's only like, and Nintendo's pricing points for their DLC have actually really reasonable. Like, I don't think they'd cheese it and be like, for $20 you get 6 maps, Call of Duty zombie map mode. Like, no, I don't think they're gonna do any of that. I think it's gonna be very like $7 for 6 maps is fine with me, as long as they're of quality. I don't want like, because there's been map packs in the past for other games that are just pure hot garbage. One good map out of the 7 that they give you, and that's not cool.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I don't have much more to add to that. I think that they might change up the modes. I hope maybe they might try something new with like a one map at least. Yeah, that's about it. Let's see if we can get another cool question in here. How will newcomers get involved with competitive Splatoon 2? Where do they know where to start? This is from Dadzy, by the way, guys. So, what's up,
The
Dadzy?
God.
So, yeah, how will newcomers get involved in competitive Splatoon 2?
That's a good question, considering we're all hiding in Discord. We have no central hub for content anymore. Like, none of us want to use squid boards. We don't have our own site set up yet. Like, where would they start, actually? Like, they would literally be in the dark at this point, so that's a good question.
Uh,
I guess they'll find out on Twitter, huh? I mean, that's a sick reality of it. If you think about it, we all the competitive players abandoned squid boards. We don't have a central hub. There's literally no resources openly available unless you go out of your way to find that information. And that's a problem for new players, because if I was new and I went to squid boards, there's only new players there. None of the people that know, like, this tournaments, I'm sure we'll still use it as a tournament posting so people can know about, and they'll get in that way. But in terms of resources and stuff like that, there's really nothing there to help anybody except ourselves, and that's a really big problem. And I personally, I mean, I'm a moderator on Squidwards, but I don't like it because I'm not a fan of forums anymore. But I would like to see a centralized website that would have every listing available and see less and less of these, like, Discord for this thing. Like, I have the LFG server and I don't even like it. I don't even want to run it. It shouldn't even be a thing. We should be able to just find people as opposed to having to go to somewhere that's like invite for this link or something to do what we need to do. Like, that's, I mean, it's kind of bogus.
how about you, Power?
I mean, I don't really know how exactly we can, like, get our entire community to go on one central hub, because there were attempts to do squid boards again, but nobody really paid attention to that much, like, in general.
Well, that's generally because it's not interesting to anyone.
Yeah.
Forums died. I think that's the problem. The only reason if Squidboards changed off of the forum platform into something like centralized and not just a boards, I think it would be better. But because it's still a forum, like, Discord kind of killed forums, like, completely. Like, a lot of forum sites I used to visit are pretty much dead because they've opted out for live conversations. Like, why wait 5 or 10 minutes for a reply when you get an instantaneous reply for a conversation? Like,
yeah. I don't know. Me personally, I think it's that there's kind of a split between things right now. I think no one has created anything where... I think the big catch is you need to create a website where you can keep people who are competitive consistently going to that site. Because if you look at something like Squidboards, or you look at something like... I don't know, Squidboards is really the only thing. Or like Twitter. You can... For Squidboards, all that information you can literally get off a Discord server, or you can get off Twitter, and it's much easier to access that information than going on Squidboards. And there's really nothing there for, like, a competitive player in his daily life to actually go to it. There's nothing that it's incentivizing him to be like, damn, I really need to check my Squidboards today, you know? And, like, even if you got everyone involved in it, it'd still be easier to go on Twitter and Discord. So I think that's why, is like, you're trying to force something that it doesn't really help the issue with. Like, no one really cares. The only people it really caters to is some new people, because it has maps listed at the beginning of the map, so they can open up a browser, see what maps are in rotation, and go play it or something, instead of just turning on the game. So I don't know. There's not really just a lot of anything. And I think a lot of the stuff that's trying to be done, a lot of stuff that was trying to be done before was mostly catering to casual people. And it's not in mind with the competitive community. You need a reason for the people who are veterans of the community to want to continue going back to it. But you want something where it attracts new people too. And I think people forget about the part where you have to keep retaining people after they visit your site. So yeah, that's how you fix it. Make something that competitive players want to go back to all the time. Make it something of interest to them that actually values their time to want to put the effort to go on it.
it's tricky. I don't think there's a one size fits all type of deal, because I don't know that you can create a system where, you have archiving, which I think is the biggest thing, is just archiving and making sure that every tournament gets VODs up somewhere that people can view, with a branding that stays consistent. It's not saying that everything has to be on one channel, but I mean, look at how Smash Bros does it. VG Video Game Bootcamp has all their stuff on there. Smash Studios, all their stuff on theirs. Every tournament that happens, you always know that if you want to find this result, let's say you want to look at Evo, you can type in Evo 2015 and it's going to be on the same channel every time. I think that's one important step that has been, I mean, we've been moving in that direction for a while, but I just want to stress that, we have a lot of tournaments. Let's make sure that people can find the results of those tournaments and find that. So I think that's a huge part, but I don't know if there's a way to include that with, for example, guides, if we're talking about things that can help people get better. And that's what's on Squid. That's what I use Squid boards for primarily, is just guides that people have posted. While also allowing for communication with other players. I don't know if there's a way that you can do that, but there might be a way to have an archiving system, have a ticker that updates with live Twitches, and then things like that. I don't know. It's tricky, because I feel like there isn't a cure-all for this situation. I think a lot of it's going to be refining the systems that we already have, and I think Discord is fine for the more nuanced stuff, but there has to be the network itself has to become more efficient. Let me say that. I don't think there's a problem with the Discords for teams or for things like Squid Coliseum or things like that, but I think it has to be a very simple step to know how to get to that. Because I'll be honest, the only reason that I'm in this position right now is because I lucked out and talked to Pixel at Squidstorm, and then he literally laid out the yellow brick road for me to get into stuff. If I hadn't talked to him at Squidstorm, none of that would have happened.
And
I think
how did you get into Squidstorm? How did you find out about Squidstorm?
Was it Reddit? Was there a Reddit post on that?
Yeah, there was a Reddit post.
Yeah, that's why. I was on our Splatoon all the time, and I saw that post, and I was like, wait a minute, Chicago, that's like a 3-hour drive from me. I can do that. And that was how it was. But then once that happened, Pixel just forcibly added me to 6 different Discords, and then it all started to come together. But I think if there's a centralized site that has, archiving and tournament results or something like that, or at least links to that sort of stuff, then there's links to the different steps in the Discord. But there needs to be visibility on that main site. I just think that we have all the different parts. We have all the branches made, but now we need to build the tree that connects it all. I think that will be the big step. Because I think there are resources out there. I just think people don't know, 1, that they exist, and 2, how to get to them. But I don't think our resources are the issue right now. I think it's just getting to those resources that's the problem.
Well, actually, another question for you is how often do you go on the Reddit Splatoon now that you've seen Squid boards?
Well, the reason that I don't go to our Splatoon has nothing to do with Squid boards. It's
sorry,
just,
our Splatoon, sorry.
Yeah, there's just no competitive content on our Splatoon. I go there for art if I go there at all. So.
Yeah, so I wonder why we can't use Reddit as a forum when you constantly get downvoted for any single thing you post that is regarding anything minuscule competitive. I still post everything to this. I posted the US Inkling Open to Reddit, and it got downvoted to oblivion. So the answer to that is Reddit Splatoon is they just don't care about it. They only care about artwork, and they care about Switch mix-up videos and Splatoon with video effect sounds. That's what interests them. Not anything to do with competitive, not anything to do with bettering your plays, nothing to do with guides. You can tell that community there is literally intended for the most casual type thing. And that's what I'm trying to say is you still need that. You still need that very, very, very casual stuff. But there still has to be a way for you to integrate it. And that Reddit community is so fostered on that casual side that you can't get that competitive side. It's basically hopeless at this point. So that's why I'm saying you need that type of thing that kind of integrates both, where you can have that casual content. You can put Splatoon with the sound effects on one page, but still have, let's say, I don't know, something that players can constantly go back to. People have been saying ladder. Ladder is a good idea. There's like a bunch of things that you could do in relation to keep competitive players. Because in the end, like someone like me, I play the game, but I don't really care about guides. I just would rather play the game to get better. Or you could say like Twitch streams, but it's like I could just go to the Twitch Splatoon page and I can get all my content there. Why do I need a website for it? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really make anything centralized when you're already savvy enough to use Discord. So what's making me want to go there? You actually need a reason. And I think that's what everyone needs to try and figure out soon. So, yep. Anything else anyone wants to add about this?
I've got nothing.
Sounds
Nothing
good.
here.
All right, I got a couple more questions, and then I think we'll wrap it up really soon. These ones should be a little bit quicker here. First question that I have from Dragon Ghost A is, how many teams representing different regions do you expect to see at E3? Sorry, not that question. My mistake. Why do you think Nintendo chose these regions and excluded others? Well, actually, it's two questions. So, how many different teams you expect to see at E3, which we already answered before, but like, why do you think Nintendo chooses regions based on it? So I'm going to answer you really quickly of what the factually I know is that it's because it's NOA, NEU, Nintendo of America, Nintendo of Europe. They have a Nintendo of Canada. They just go with the really popular scenes that are thriving, and they pick them based off of that. Nintendo's always been a regional company, so they're never going to, like, Nintendo of America isn't going to get players from Japan. That would be Nintendo of Japan that would do that. So you're always going to see, at least with Nintendo, it's always going to be regional based. It'll always be like a US tournament. It'll always be an EU tournament. That's just how they function. So at least from like a logical perspective, that's what it is. But do you guys want to add anything in particular to that? Maybe there's a reason that you think that's different?
The only thing I can think of is language barrier.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I don't know. I know a lot of regions that aren't the U.S., having a pretty, basic or even bilingual understanding of two languages is not uncommon at all. But here, it's a little bit more uncommon. And if the tournament's being hosted here, like E3, I mean, it makes sense that language barrier could be an issue. I know that's not always the case, but I don't know. That could be part of it.
Cool. So this is just another quick question from Smarty12. He says, do you think they'll add bots or AI to the game?
No, I don't think they will. It just
Probably
doesn't
not.
seem like a feature at all for Nintendo.
Yeah, that's why Salmon Row exists, right? Salmon Run?
I'm actually like super interested to see what the AI from that is, because we've only seen like the super basic stuff for that. I'm really interested in seeing what they do with the AI for that. I'm not expecting amazing movement and stuff like that, but it could be really interesting to see what they do. I don't know. I forget, how was the AI on the Octolings on those maps in single player? It's been like 2 years since I played it.
I haven't played it in so long, but I can tell you that if I probably go back now, I'll probably steamroll everything. So
Yeah, it's pretty basic stuff.
Yeah,
it's pretty basic.
But even it's because we also play at such a high level that, you know what I mean? They could make it even harder, and we would still probably destroy it. So we're not the best judge of that, to be fair. But yeah, I don't think they'll add bots to the game. 2 reasons. I think that one, I just don't think Nintendo will invest enough into it to not get a return on it. And second, they're not going to have dedicated servers. So you can't really add AI to a peer-to-peer game unless you want to chug that server even harder than what it's already chugging at. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like something that they'll invest in. Yeah. So let me see if I can get one more question in here. Oh yeah, this is a good one. This is from Sedu. With another question, he asks the question every week, and it's a good question, so I bring it up. Do you think locals will be a lot more frequent in the next game? To what degree do you think larger scale esports teams will be involved?
Ooh. That's a big one.
Yeah, this will be our final question, by the way, so we'll get that going, and we'll wrap it up right after this. So yeah, do you think? Oh, we'll start with the first question. Do you think locals will be a lot more frequent in the next game? So do you think you'll have LANs, social events, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, with the Switch hardware, it seems a lot more plausible to have locals. So I'll say yes on that one.
Not only that, with that amiibo thing, where you can take your gear over to like another Switch. So like if there is like 8 Switches, you just put your one gear set on one amiibo, or you take 6 amiibos and put 6 gear sets on them, and just start tapping it on the machine. Sounds pretty good. But yeah, like, do you think there'll be more social or more competitive power?
I'll say a mix of both, because our community right now, we have lots of like the people, there's like a good balance between people who are social, they interact with each other, and there's those other players who are strictly focused on competitive. So a good mix of those.
How about you, Nine?
Well, I mean, it's clear that they've geared the game up to be more LAN friendly. They added a LAN mode, like you said, with the amiibos, and you can carry over your gear and stuff like that, and just the portability of the Switch. So I would think, at least in theory, there should be more. Ultimately, if there are, just depends on us, who wants to host them and who does host them. But it certainly seems like Nintendo's geared up for it, and I mean, to kind of echo Power, I think it'll be a mix of both, but I hope it's a little bit more focused towards social, at least initially, because people come for the game, but they stay for the people. They like the friends that people make is often what keeps people going. Like, if the game is good and we advertise it well enough, people will come, but they'll only stay because they like who they're with. Because, I mean, it's a good game, but there are 1,000,001 good games. There are 1,000,001 ways to spend your time. But when you incorporate the community and the people themselves, the friends you make, that's what'll keep people. So I think it'll depend on LAN to LAN, but I hope people keep in mind that, the people will stay for people. And I just hope that's a focus. And both of the LANs that I've been to, people were open. Like I said, it was going to a LAN by chance that even got me here. So I think we've got that part down.
All right. Pixel?
I'd like to see more competitive stuff. Like, I like the social aspect, but the current LANs are more of a LAN get-together feeling, which that's perfectly fine, grassroots. But going forward, I'd like to see more stuff like ESL, where you're going strictly to compete, and then during the off time, you socialize with people. Because that's what I play for. I play strictly for the competition, and I mean, I like making friends and stuff like that, but I like seeing the competitive aspect launch forward as opposed to sticking. Like, I don't want to stay like this forever. Like, I'd like to see it expand to where it's like a mix, like the ESL type quality, but like has the social, roomy feeling aspect of, like, say, Squid Storm is the prime example. So that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, I want to chime in on this because I think I have a wildly different opinion than you, Nine.
Oh, interesting.
I think that in order to foster more LANs, we have to get way more serious about the actual competition going into it, and I think there just has to be more at stake. If you watch any of like the really successful LANs and where they go, none of them are casual. Like, if you're watching the grassroots Smash scene, right? All of them have that hardcore competition, and people want to see, like, Leffen and Armada, and they want to see that live, and they want to have the hype of the games and the people they meet when they're watching these high-level games, right? Like, if you're just going to a place to meet up with people, there's a very low chance that someone will fly, let's say me from Montreal, all the way to the west coast of Washington to just hang out with people for 3 days. There has to be something else that I'm going to get in return from it. And I think this comes with two things. I think the first thing is that you actually need to foster competitive players. You need to actually make them known. Like, for example, like something that we try to do is we try to highlight teams. We try to make teams known. So that way, like, when, for example, you watch the US Inkling Open, they might look and go, oh, I know Deadbeats. I watched them. Did you see that sick play? You know what I mean? Like, you need players to become popular. You actually need players to become, I don't want to say stars because, like, they're not going to be like a Brad Pitt or something, but you need them to be like that like icon in a community where people look up to them and want to see what happens next, see what happens to that team next. and just like kind of idolize their play in a way. You need that. You need that whole competitive aspect. You need to foster that scene where they become celebrities in a way. And I think that's a way to encourage people, because if they're like, oh damn, I get to hang out with this community from Splatoon, I also get to watch high level play, I also get to meet my favorite player who I think is really good, you know what I mean? It becomes your value of money is worthwhile to go to that event, even if you're not playing to win. There's more to see, you know what I mean? And if there's something on the line, like the tournaments are actually hyping up the games themselves, not so much just the event that's going on, I think that's healthier and encourages more people to go, because they're like, damn, when I go to this place, I get to watch this hype set that's going on, as opposed to like, oh, I get to go to this event and I get to hang out with people and it's cool and yay, it's all fun, but like it's not there yet. And I understand the limitations of it. Like you can't get like 4 people from a team from Europe to just magically show up to a Splatoon tournament that has absolutely no money into it. So I think the big thing comes down to, we do need sponsors. We need teams that are getting sponsored. The community just has to grow in general for that to happen. So I think, yes, you're going to see more LANs, and I hope that they're going to be more competitive, because I think that's the way to really grow it further. Well,
let me clarify. I must have misinterpreted the question. I thought the question was, will we see more locals? And so my answer is tailored more towards the locals. I think that if the local events happen, that's where the people aspect comes in. And that's more of what I was answering. I agree at the top level, let's get money, let's get top level play, let's give a competitive incentive. But I think for locals, it's important that the people come first. Because if you're trying to cultivate that local scene, that's what's going to get them there. But yeah, for the high level stuff, I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, and to be fair, there are local events running all the time, but people just don't know about them because they're not advertised a lot either. Like we have the Squid Social in Toronto, not too far from me, about 6 hours away. And they have that event where they actually watched the US Inkling Open at a bar with everyone, and that was pretty cool.
Splatoon at a bar.
Seemed like a lot of fun. So yeah, like I definitely like to go to these events if they're really local and nearby my place and a bunch of other places too, but I don't know. I was more talking about the gigantic events.
I see. Okay.
Because what we consider big right now is Endgame, Squid Storm, Smash and Splash. You know what I mean? Like those are the events that we all watch on a stream. I'm talking like actual live streamed events. Like you watch it for the competitive players that are in it and for our community. You know what I mean? Like I think 90% of people who watch like Smash and Splash watch it because they're like, damn, I get to see Dude. Like you get to see the faces of the players, the people that you talk to every day, and that's what's cool about it. But I'd like to see that with actual competition, like hardcore competition. I think that'd be really cool. So yeah, actually, second question, we'll just clear it up really quickly. To what degree do you think larger scale esports teams will be involved? Do you think we'll start to get actual... I don't want to say actual, because there's already teams that are sponsored, but I mean, like, do you actually think we'll start getting money into Splatoon? Do you actually think that there'll be enough of a money event in tournaments for bigger name sponsors? And I'm talking about, like, Team Liquids and the EGTVs, and not EGTVs, sorry, Evil Geniuses. Yeah, that is EGTV, sorry. Endgame, Evil Geniuses, sorry. Yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think that there'll be some actual like big name teams coming into the fold?
As of right now, it's just hard to imagine it because our scene is so small right now. In order to get there, I think we have to, like we talked about it earlier, marketing to be able to get the casual scene more involved, because that's where the numbers come from. And also grow the competitive side, so we could just have more players in general. And I think that's what attracts sponsors. I'm not quite sure how the entire process works.
Also, like the thing to note is like sponsors, most of the time they're not gonna, unless your scene's big, they're not gonna come to you. You have to go to them and all the time. Like a lot of the current sponsor teams, regardless of size of those sponsors, they reached out to those sponsors and said, hey, we have a team, we'd scratch our back, we'll scratch your back type of deal. There's some like drippings on the like team, like sponsors. Well, they're not really sponsors; they're teams. Sponsors would be like Coke, Elgato, like things like Panda Global, Evil Geniuses. Those are teams.
More
So
like let's say a team making your team I don't want to say legitimate.
Yeah,
team,
it's basically all it is. It's basically making your team this like it's you could say
your
still say
team name
sponsorship.
takes on a different entity.
Yeah, basically,
changing your team to a different entity for actual salaries.
I have a feeling because Splatoon 2 is marketed, it already has the drippings of what an esport type game already has at the forefront, which big start with the spectator mode as a for base. It's kind of slowly interesting, making other larger names like e.g. Panda Global, stuff like that, willing to delve more than they currently have into the scene. So that completely goes on growth and how long we keep our member base stable. Because right now we're pretty much at the dead end of our road. I don't think we're going to expand any further than we have. It's very apparent we're not going to.
Well, for Splatoon 1, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Splatoon 1, but with Splatoon 2, you're going to get right out of the gate. You're going to get all the Twitch streamers. If you're a popular Splatoon 1 Twitch streamer, I have bad news for you. You're not going to be crap when all the popular Twitch streamers come out to play. You're going to have top players from other games trying out the game. It's going to be a clusterfest. You'll be lucky to get maybe 40 viewers max. I think the only one who would be in the safe zone is Dude, and that's because of his YouTube channel. People would he'll be in the 200 something, but he'll still have people over him. So it's going to be just one big mess. But the point is, we want to make sure that we showcase what we're about to get those people. Because coming out of the gate, having all those people is great, but we want people that stay, and that's the problem Splatoon 1 had. It's a huge base in the West, and then it just died because people got bored. I know so many people that played it from the start and then just quit because private battles weren't out right away, or when the private battles came out, it was already too late. They didn't care, or vice versa. It wasn't marketed towards them, so they didn't give a crap. So it really boils down to how things are released in Nintendo's time slots, the interest. How long do they capture a player's interest, and that comes with content, making sure if they lock private battles day one, they're making a mistake right out of the gate, for example, or keeping the ranked modes until a level system's fine, but keeping it to 10, it takes at least an hour and 30 or something to get 10. Just casually playing it. So I mean, it really depends on how things go, but I'm pretty sure we'll see more sponsor names in, as long as we can keep our growth consistent.
Yeah, and I not only that, I think that this is going to sound a little bit different, but I think tournament organizers, people who are organizing tournaments, need to just stop thinking about the actual tournaments themselves. They need to actually start thinking about ways to get funding, starting in Splatoon 2. You need to actually start thinking about ways to maybe start funding your tournament, because at this point, if we think Splatoon is going to be as big as it is, because look at just the Mario Kart 8 sales, they were through the roof, right? Who's to say Splatoon won't do the same? It's just the attach rate on the Wii U was bad, right? But they're doing insanely good with the Switch right now, so it looks good for us. I just think that a lot of these tournaments that you see that are weekly are going to start dying out, because there might be more teams that are interested in the prize pool tournaments instead. And you might actually see some bigger name tournaments themselves also going for Splatoon as well. So, yeah. I think it really comes down to just volume at the beginning of the game. You really just have to retain that big volume we're going to catch.
And I think one of the other things that's important, I guess it's two things, is one, just branding. I think until our top teams and top players just across the board really, really, really learn how to brand themselves, I think that's very attractive for sponsors, so I think that'll be a big part of it. And the other thing is, I think that, and this is kind of one thing that I've personally found might be a little bit underrated in terms of what might hurt Splatoon, is Hitzel and I talked about this at the US Inkling Open, but how many teams are still around from 2015? Not even a full 2 years after the game's been out, and you've got, maybe, I'm not even going to say a number because I know I'm going to be wrong, but it's not a lot. And I think that the constant shuffling of teams and banding and disbanding, I think that might be kind of a deterrent for sponsors, because if you want to sponsor in, you want to know that the team is going to stay together. And I'm not saying that roster turnover doesn't happen, because it does even at the top level, but I mean, you see teams come up and go down in less than 6-7 months, and you're not going to want to invest money into a product that does that. And I'm not saying that's anyone's fault, but I'm saying it's something to consider in the future when we're talking about, sponsors coming in. Is they're going to want a stable product to invest in.
Well, I think it's not just that. I think it's also that because there is no money, the flexibility to change is there.
Yeah.
Like if
they go hand in hand.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of this just has to do with us there just has to be money injected into the scene for a lot of this, to be completely honest.
Yeah. It's just which is going to come first. Is money going to come in first and then we conform to it, or are we going to stabilize and then the money comes in? And we don't know the answer to that yet. So
yeah,
it's a tough situation.
We'll find out. Hopefully. hopefully there's money. Give us money, guys. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's about everything on the show that I wanted to talk about today. We got most of the viewer questions done. We got all our topics on the U.S. Open. Does anyone have any final closing comments before we close it up?
Thanks for having me on. I had a lot of fun.
All right.
Yeah, glad to be on also.
All right. So let's have you guys plug yourselves. So Nine, tell us where we can find you. Tell us what you do. Plug all your shit. Go for it.
So yeah, you can find my Twitter at Ninewholegrains. It's spelled exactly like you see here on the overlay. I really just complain about Fire Emblem Heroes and talk about Splatoon and anime every once in a while. So if that's what you're interested, follow me there. I'm hoping to get a stream started eventually. I don't know what I'll do, but I'll have more info on that as time comes up. Otherwise, you can find me at Smash and Splash 3. Looking forward to that. And I think that's about it.
Cool. Power, where can we find you?
I have a YouTube and Twitter. It goes by power_Splatoon. It's not as active as my Twitch, but on YouTube I just post highlights, sometimes montages when I got the time to make them. And for my Twitter, I don't really post much. I just post whenever I'm streaming.
Yo, gotta get on that Twitter, Power.
Yeah, for my Twitch, it's _power_. And I'm usually going to stream around 5 days a week at 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. So that's where you'll mainly find me.
Sounds good. Pixel?
My Twitch is right above my head, cleverly. My Twitter is at pixelatedCody. There's no other. And then YouTube is the same thing, pixelatedCody. Everything's pixelatedCody. If there's any like strange spelling differentials, it's not me.
Oh Lord.
But and there's been a lot of that cropping up. So yeah, you could find me at pixelatedCody, like capital P, capital C, none of that, no weird Z at the end. I don't care.
No X's. Man. You're not hardcore.
No X's. No, I'm not.
You're not
right?
pixelatedCody X.
pixelatedCody Green Day 65. Let's go. Like, yeah,
pixelated pix XXX Cody.
Yeah, no. The edgy days of Xbox Live are over for me.
Oh man, sounds good. You can follow me at CryptikSpoon on Twitter. I have a Twitch at CryptikSpoon. I don't really do a lot on it though because I am really invested in InkTV. So if anything, I'll plug this. You can follow us at InkTV. You can follow this channel at InkTV Splat. You follow our YouTube at InkTV Splatoon. Just search it and then subscribe to us. We're looking to do more stuff in the future. We're going to have an interview segment coming up next week where we interview people from the Splatoon community on top of this podcast that happens every 2 weeks. You're going to start seeing some smaller tournaments pop up on this stream too. And then look forward to a couple of other things that we have secretive for now, but coming up. So, look forward to us, guys. So thank you guys for being on the show, and have a good night, everyone.